Okay, I think I'm live now. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining. You can also send your messages on LinkedIn. Wish yourselves. I believe a few people joined. Yeah, I can see more than 60 people joined already, and more people are joining. Welcome to this session on how to get started with Agentforce for developers. And in today's session, I'm going to take you through right from setup to explore all the capabilities of Agentforce for developers, and we'll also build a kind of use case towards the end of the session as well. With that said, let me introduce myself. I'm Satya Sekhar, a developer advocate with Salesforce, and as part of my role, I motivate developers to build applications on the Salesforce platform. With that brief introduction, let me also remind you that I might be showing few of the things today, which might be in beta. Most of the things that I cover are generally available, but there might be few things which might be in beta. So if you are making any purchase decisions, please base your decisions only on what are generally available on the platform. To start with, I have a question here. What is Agentforce for developers? What it is? So it's a suite of developer tools that are built with generative AI capability. Now, these tools are built on the in-house large language models, CodeGen and XGen Code. These are the LLMs that are used to build these tools, and it helps developers to write the code. In fact, it can generate the code for developers. You can ask the assistant, we call it as dev assistant, to generate the code for you, and it can do it for you. And there are also tools with which you can check the functionality or the analysis of the code that you can do with the tool. And then all of the code that you write is built using the best practices. So the LLMs are trained well to generate the code which stick to the best practices. With that said, it's a very high level introduction. I'm sure most of you might also have attended one of the sessions that we have done 10 days back, which will also be available on YouTube channel, where our awesome product managers Ananya Jha and Pooja Reddivari has answered most of the questions related to the Agentforce for developers while showing a short demo there. But today, we are going to deep dive into the capabilities and understand how we can get started and how we can leverage the capabilities of Agentforce for developers while you build the application. The second question I have is, how can I access Agentforce for developers? Yes, Agentforce for developers is available as an extension, both in the code builder. If you are using this online tool, you can access Agentforce for developers through the extensions code builder. And if you are doing offline development, then VS Code is your go-to tool where you can find this Agentforce for developers available. Now, how can you install that? So here is a extension that you can install. The extension is called Agentforce for developers. You can install it right from the VSX registry, or you can also install it from VS Code Marketplace. But there is also another easy way that you can get access to the Agentforce for developers. That is by installing the Salesforce Extensions Pack Extended. I'll show you what I've installed in my environment before I start diving into the details. So here I'm in my Visual Studio Code environment, which we are going to use today to do or write our code using the Agentforce for developers. Now, how did I install that? Like I said, you can go to the marketplace and you can search for Salesforce extensions, and you can find something called as Salesforce Extension Pack Expanded. So once you install this extension suite, you are going to get the Agentforce for developers as part of this extension. That's a pretty simple installation process with which you can install the Agentforce for developers. But once you install it, how can you make sure that you are connected to Agentforce for developers? One of the requirements is you need to connect to an org. Here I've already created a SFDX project. So the first requirement is create an SFDX project and then connect it to an org. So I've connected it to an org here. We called it as recipes. So many of you might already be aware of LWC recipes. Many of you might have already used. So I'm going to show a couple of demos on this recipes app. So I've already connected my org. I've installed, deployed these recipes in my org, and I connected to my org. Now, once it is deployed, you can see the little icon at the bottom in the status bar, which is your Agentforce status icon. Now you can click this icon and check to see if your Agentforce is connected. If you see something like status ready, the Agentforce is connected and you can start using the Agentforce. Now, you have different menu items here. You can disable Agentforce for developers at any point in time if you don't want to use it, and you want to code it by yourself manually. You can always do that. So the only thing you need to do is disable it, and then you can also notice here the icon changed a little bit, which indicates that Agentforce for developers is currently disabled. Now let me go back and enable it once again. And then if you also want to check in the org, you can do that. If you click on this icon, open the org, you can go to the setup. And one point I want to emphasize is, I'm already in setup. One point I want to emphasize is Agentforce for developers is enabled by default. If you go here, you can see Agentforce for developers here from the setup menu, and it is enabled by default. If you are looking at this gray icon and if you feel like it is not enabled, it's not so. This is to disable the Agentforce for developers because it is enabled by default. If you don't want, you can disable it. Otherwise, it is enabled. Now, coming back to the environment, when you click this Agentforce icon from the status bar, you can see the options. We saw this option, and these options are dynamic. It is context specific. For instance, if you are working on JavaScript file, then you might also see an option saying disable JavaScript auto completions. And then you have some keyboard shortcuts. Whenever you want, you can go and refer to these shortcuts. For instance, if you want to generate a test, these are the shortcuts that you are currently seeing in Mac. But if you are logged in Windows system, then you see Windows shortcuts there. So here you can see a shortcut for generating a test, or if you want to toggle auto completion, whatever. Here you can find a few shortcuts. And there are a few other important things that I want to talk about here. One is if you want to make any configuration changes to Agentforce for developers, you can click this icon, which is going to open the Agentforce for developers settings. Now you see here something called as Einstein for developers. If you're wondering what is Einstein for developers, it is the same thing, whether it's Einstein for developers or Agentforce for developers. Agentforce for developers is the newest tool, which has a lot of other capabilities, but there are few residues here in the naming conventions, which might change over a period of time. But here is where you can enable, if you want to enable or disable through the configurations, you can do here. And there are various other configurations that you can, like for instance, you want to control the length of the inline code generation, auto completion length. You can do that. You can make it short, long, or long, multiple lines, whatever. So likewise, there are few other options that you can control using the settings here. And if you are very much new to Agentforce for developers and you want to get started right from the basics, then you can click on Instant Get Started, wherein you can see 5 steps through which you can get started with Agentforce for developers. The first one is, like I said, First requirement is open a Salesforce DX project, which I've already done here, and then connect to a Salesforce org, which I've already done here. I've connected to the Salesforce org. Once you do that, you can learn about different things. There are different tools that we are going to learn today. One is Agentforce Dev Assistant. So it is like an assistant where you can write a prompt or ask a question. It is going to answer your question. Maybe you want a suggestion on how to write a specific code. It is going to come up with a code snippet that you can directly use in your coding practice and fine tune it. Likewise, the second option that we get with Agentforce for developers is the second capability. It is inline code completions. While you write the code, you can auto complete the code. Like for instance, you have given request and then click on auto complete. It is going to generate the right set value for you. We are going to see that in a short demo. That is the second capability. And then there are other capabilities like yeah, I have zoomed in a little bit, but you can also generate a test case, especially for Apex, not for Lightning Web Components at the moment, but it's there in the roadmap from what I understand from the product managers. So you can generate the test case for Apex, and then you can also look into the history panel. This is the test case generation. You can also look into the history panel to see what prompts that you have written, what are the responses from the Agentforce for developers. These are the different things that you can do with the status bar icon of Agentforce for developers. Now going back to the presentation. Let me run through it. Yeah. What can I do with the Agentforce for developers? This is one important question. Once you understand the capabilities of the tools, then you can plan and use the tool as per your requirements. Now here you can see these are the different capabilities which I want to highlight today. One is you can get started with the Salesforce development. If you are pretty much new to Salesforce development, you can ask questions related to Salesforce development, like what is Apex? How can I get started with the Salesforce development and stuff? Likewise, you can generate the high quality code. That is the second capability. And the third capability is if you're not familiar with any of the code, this happens most of the times. If someone writes the code and if you go and look into the code, it will be an utter confusion. You probably might not be able to understand the code fully. But then you can take the support of Agentforce to explain the code, to give the description of the code that can be helpful for you to understand the code. And there's also inline code completion and test generation for Apex. Let's look into each of these things one at a time and see how we can work with all of those things. Now, the first one is get started with Salesforce development by asking for assistance. Now, I talked about one of the icons here at the bottom, but if you look at the left side in the activity bar, you can see an icon, which again says Agentforce. When you click this, it is going to launch Dev Assistant. Here you can see a brief welcome message. And here is where you can ask the questions, whatever, and the Dev Assistant is going to answer the questions. And make sure that these questions are very much relevant to the Salesforce development. If you ask some other question in general, probably it might come back saying that I'm here to answer your Salesforce development related questions. But one of the questions that we got in our earlier session is also, what does this use entire file option does? Let me ask that question. What is the purpose of the use entire file toggle in Dev Assistant? So I'm learning about Dev Assistant from the Dev Assistant itself. So let us run this and see what it has to say. Here you can see that it says the purpose of the use entire file toggle in Dev Assistant is to allow developers to provide the entire code file context when asking a question or seeking assistance. So what happens is when you enable this toggle, it is going to give the entire file as a context to the LLM so that it understands better what is the context you're looking for, and then it will generate the most appropriate code. So that is the purpose of it. Likewise, if you want to understand, let me say, what is streaming. Maybe this is one thing, I don't know how it works. Maybe what is the streaming API in Salesforce? So it comes up with what is streaming API. Then you can ask like, no, how can I get started with the streaming API? So on and so forth. So this is how you can ask the questions, and then Dev Assistant is going to answer all of your coding related questions. The next capability of Agentforce for developers is you can quickly and safely generate high quality code that's embedded with the best practices. Now let us see how we can generate the code. Let me ask you can always clear this conversation by clicking this button on the top. But then let me ask a question. Create a simple LWC component that accepts a username and greets the user. So it's a kind of basic hello world kind of component. I'm asking Dev Assistant to create a simple LWC component, and let me see how it does it. When I go here, you can see that it has created a basic component. It has a simple HTML which says hello username, and then it also created a simple JavaScript file, and then it also defined a property username with at API directive here, decorated with that API. So this is a very simple LWC component that it has generated just by asking a question. This is one place where you can generate the code. There is also other place. If you are a big fan of Visual Studio Code, we all know that the commands from the command palette are really useful. But if you want to generate a code, let me open. Maybe I can open some file here. Let me open classes, some account class. Maybe I can just create a simple file with dot class extension, and then I can ask Agentforce to generate the code. Now when I type Agentforce, you can see various options here. You can run all of these commands like Agentforce generate code, which can generate the code for you. Agentforce generate a test can generate a Apex test class for the code that is currently open based on context. So when you ask that, when you click this, it asks you to enter a query. So whatever you have been doing in the Dev Assistant here, you can do the same thing here. You can enter the query, and it's going to generate a code for you. So this is another way of generating the code. Now you can use either Dev Assistant, or you can use the command palette from where you can run the command. Now you want to get familiarized with the code and improve your code documentation. Now let's see how we can get familiarized with our code. Let me open any of these classes. Let me open, say, contact controller. If I don't know what this contact controller does, I can always ask Agentforce to explain the code. To do that, again, you can go here to the activity bar, launch this icon, and then let me clear this. And here, like I said before, you can ask a question, or you can also run some kind of shortcut commands. You can get access to shortcut commands by pressing the slash icon. When I press slash icon, you can see different shortcut commands. The first one is explain, which can explain the code. Now it knows that we are here in this file. Whatever is open in the editor, it has the context. So basically what it's going to look at it is, first it's going to look at the contents in the editor, and based on that, it's going to respond to your query. And if there are more files, it's going to look into all of those files and then give the context, get the context from those files. And if nothing is open, it looks into your folder structure. From there also it can pick the context. So this is the order in which it can pick the context. So let me click on slash explain and see what it has to say. Now I'm in the contact controller, and here you can see that it is generating some explanation, where you can see that the code provided is an Apex class named contact controller. It identified what this class is, and it is showing us what are the different methods here and what each method is doing. And then it also talks about it is decorated with Aura enabled, so that it can be accessed from the LWC components also. And here at the bottom, you can see a complete summary. It says that overall, this code provides a simple way to retrieve and search for contacts with pictures in a Salesforce environment. The use of caching ensures that the data is efficiently retrieved and reduces the load on the database. So at a very high level, it has given the summary here, and it has also given the detailed description of what are all these things. This is one good example. I opened one file here. Now, if you want to learn about all of the components in LWC, understand what each of the file does, you can go to the recipes app and then run through this /explain command to get more explanation about each of these files. And while I do that, you can also post your questions. I'll be looking at the questions somewhere in between, and I can see few people join from different places. I see people join from Punjab. Sonali, thanks for joining from Punjab. And also El Mehdi joined from Morocco. And then from AP, few people joined. There are a lot of people joined from all of the places. Thanks for all of those greetings. But yeah, if you have any questions, you can post your questions. I'll look into the questions in between and try to answer as many questions possible. Okay. So far we saw how to generate the code and how we can get the code explanations. There are few other shortcuts that are really important and interesting. One shortcut is documentation. So this is what I want to tell. You can understand and familiarize your document or with the code by looking at the explanation. But then if you want to generate some kind of internal documentation, now you can do the internal documentation by clicking on this /document button. Let's see what it does. Now here, this is the code that I have. I haven't written any documentation. I don't know what each specific method does unless I ask my dev assistant to help with that. So let's see what happens when I run /document command. When I run this command, you can see that it generates the documentation. So you can see it has generated the documentation about what this class does at a very high level. And then for each of the methods it generated, what are the different parameters that go in with a brief description of what that method does and what is the return value and all. Now, when it generates the code, here you can see that it has generated the Apex code. And then you can also see two options. When you click this first option, you can copy the code and then paste the code wherever you want. The second option is insert the code at the cursor. Now, what I can do is I can put the cursor somewhere here before public. And then when I do this stuff, you can see that the documentation is generated for my code. I can simply save the code, and anyone can refer to the documentation. Likewise, you can also generate a test case by clicking the /test icon. So this is to generate the test case. But what we'll do is we'll look into the example. We'll do some kind of use case, and then there we'll see how we can generate the test cases and all of that stuff. So one more thing I want to cover is inline completion. So if you want, you can complete the code. Now let me do one thing. I'll remove this line of code. Let us say, and let me type last name. And when I give some time and say last name, I put a space here, and you can see that it has generated the code equal to last name. So if you like that code, you can just click on the tab button to accept that suggestion. Or if you want to accept one word at a time, if you are using a Windows, you can use Alt key and the backward slash. If you are using Mac, you can press Command and backward slash to accept one word at a time. So this was a pretty simple set of examples just for us to understand how we can work with the Agentforce for developers. But then let's try to write a small component and see how it works. how we can leverage all of these capabilities while we write those components. Now for that, I'm going to use another sample app. We have a sample app called e-bikes. Let me open that app here. And again, what I've done is I've created a SFDX project for that sample app. And I've created a SFDX project. Let me move it there, move it closer. Cool. If you look here, I have created a SFDX project, and I have all of the code here in this sample app. And then I can go here to the app, and let's explore the app very quickly. Most of you people might already know this e-bikes app. It is available as a code sample in developer website. You can go to developer.salesforce.com and go to code samples. You can find this e-bikes app. You can deploy it from there. I've already deployed it, which has a product explorer where you can explore various bikes. You can change the cost and see, look into each of these bikes information here. Likewise, you can look into the contacts, products, and all. Now, this is a nice explorer for sure. But what this store also does is it keeps track of the bikes that are recently imported, like, like the latest bikes and the popular bikes. So what they want us to do is they want us to implement a kind of carousel wherein we can show the latest bikes that can scroll through. Maybe you can later use it in the experience cloud so that people can see what are the latest bikes and they can click on one of the bike to see into the details of the bike. So we are going to build something like this today. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. Again, I'm going to I'm not going to write the code. I'm going to use the Agentforce today to generate the code, and then I'm going to fine tune the code. So it's not necessary that always the code is whatever code that is generated is suited as it is for your requirements. You might have to make some changes, but again, after making the changes, also if something doesn't work, you can always click on this share your feedback, which can take you to the GitHub repository where you can raise the issues if you're seeing any issue. So after this session, if you're seeing any issue, definitely can ask. If it is within my purview, I can definitely answer those questions. But if the issue is really serious, then you can definitely raise it here, and product managers are continuously watching it. Okay. Now, what I've done is I have created some prompts to make the thing simple. So here I'm writing a prompt wherein, so this is the prompt. Let's write. Again, you can write whatever prompt you want. I just pre-created it to avoid some typing. So what I'm asking it to do is create a method named get latest products that then returns a list of product underscore C records whose status is equal to the latest. Now let me show you one thing. So here, let me open the product controller. So let me open, oh, I can see command. Yeah, product controller. Let's open the product controller class. This is the class. I can again go here and I can ask /explain to understand what this class does. Now, like you can see here, it is generating information about each of these methods, what each of it does. But what I'm more interested in is what this class does. In summary, the get products method retrieves a list of products based on user provided filters. Now you saw one example there, the product explorer, which I was showing in the user interface. So I was applying some filters. Based on filters, it was giving me the tiles, and then it constructs a SOQL query to get that filter information, and then it is going to put the results in the page result object. So all of this can be paginated. If you go here, this is the product explorer. You can see various filters here, and you can see different pages. So all of this logic is written in this product controller, and it also contains the total number of products, the number of products per page, so on and so forth. Now what I want to do is I want to add an additional functionality to this controller wherein I want to retrieve the latest bikes. Now again, like I said, I can give a context. You can use entire file here so that it gets the total file as the context. Then I can click somewhere and then let me run the query. So let me copy the query from here where I want to create a method in the same product controller. Basically, I'm not saying that I'm going to create it in the product controller. I want Agentforce to pick up the context from there. So let me copy, create a method named get latest products that retrieve a list of product underscore C records whose status is equal to latest. Let's go and paste it here and see what it has to do. Now it has to create a get latest products. And it has generated something. It is hard to read because this is really narrow. What I'll do is I'll click wherever I want my code to be made available. Let me paste it here. So this is the code it has generated, where you can see that it is going to get the latest products. It's running all of this information. It is saying where status is equal to latest. And that's how it generated the code for us. Let's save it. And now that we have created a Apex class, I also want to generate a test for this Apex class. So what I can do is I can either use slash command here to generate the test, or I can use the command palette where I can use Agentforce and click on generate test, or I can even right click here and then click Agentforce generate a test. So it is asking which test class you want to use, where you want to generate the test case for this one. So I'll say test product controller. And here it is listing the test classes that are currently available for, in fact, the test classes are available for these three methods. Let me, I want to create test class for get latest products. So I've entered this name. So this is the method for which I want to create the test class, and you can see that it has created a nice test class. Again, it's up to you. If you want to accept it, you can accept, or you can say try again and again create the test class uh, once again. So let me accept for now and let us save it. Now let's go and run all tests and see how it works. So you can see that it has run all the tests, and the pass rate is 100%. It says three tests because one of the three methods, because one of the method is only creating a data for your test class. But these are the three test methods that it executed, and it has that 100% code coverage. Now, for most of the developers, I know writing the test classes was not that easy, and I'm sure this is going to be really helpful. With that, before going forward, uh, yeah, thanks, Mohit. You're also answering some questions. I see Mohit is already there, who is answering some questions, so I can focus more on the session, and let's continue building other things. Now that we have created a controller, Apex controller, let's go ahead and create a Lighting Web component. Again, to do that, I can go here. Let me go to the, yeah, let us clear this up. And let us, I think I have already created a prompt. Let us understand what this prompt does. Let me copy it. So here I'm saying that I'm asking it to create let me zoom in here rather. Here I'm asking it to create a LWC component named product carousel. And I want it to use the products written from the get latest products method of the product controller that we have just implemented. And I just wanted to create the JavaScript file. Again, you can create the complete Lighting Web component, or you can create the JavaScript file. You can incrementally build the product. So whatever way you want, it's up to you. in whichever way you want to generate, you can do it. But one important point to note here is writing prompt itself is very important. There are some certain best practices that you can find in Agentforce for Developers Guide on how you write the prompt. Keep the prompt as descriptive as possible so that the LLM has the complete context, and then it can help you with the uh, answer for your query. Now let me copy it. I just already copied. Let us run this query. Where Let's see what it does. So you can see that it has generated a JavaScript file. Not just generating a JavaScript file, it also gives an explanation what it has done in that. So why it has generated this JavaScript file, and this method, and what this method is supposed to do and all. Now what we'll do is, let me create a lighting web component, because I want to create a component called product carousel. Uh, Let us start by creating a lighting web component. So let us say create lighting web component. Let's give the name as product carousel, and let's put it in LWC. Yes, it has created the JavaScript file, and now I want to use this JavaScript file. So what I'll do is, I'll remove all of this, and then let me use the code as it is. Okay, so yeah, what it does is, it has created a method. In fact, you can see that it understands, it got the get latest products method, and it imported here, and then it has created a products property, and then it has created a connected callback. This is not what I want. I also want to wire it. So let me update the query. uh, I will say use the Apex wire service, Apex wire service, and get the products from the get latest products method from the product controller. Now let me say I'm asking it to use the Apex wire service. Let me copy it here. Let me clear this code. So I'll delete it, no problem. Let's run it again and see what it has to do. Okay, it has generated some code here. So let us use this code. Again, if you want to use any of these things, you can do that. Again, I want to keep the code as simple as possible. So let me further refine this code. Use the wire service, service with property, bind it to a property, whatever it is. And I'll say, I'll make it simple. Use the products from the get products. Let me copy it here. And let me clear this once again, one last time, and then we'll use it as it is. Okay. One problem I can see here is, now that the product carousel.js is open, it already has this code. You can see that it generates the similar code because it has the context from here. It is taking the context from here. So let us not take the context from here. Let us remove this. And then let us copy the prompt again. And this is one pitfall, or maybe maybe it's an important thing that you might want to know. If the file is already open, if you're done generating something, it is going to take the context from there and it generates the same code just like that. Okay, whatever it generated, let me take it here, take it from here, and I want to use. Let us say I want to use the. I don't want to make it complex. I'll use get latest products and fields, so I can fine tune this code in whatever way I want. So I can remove the unnecessary code if you want to keep it simple. Let me keep it simple here. And if I want to have the fields, I can do that, or else I can remove the fields and also remove this part. Again, I'm making it simple. It's not necessary that you make it simple. It's up to you, whatever way you want to implement it. And because I'm not using API, I'll remove this. Okay, let us save it. Still, it looks like there is some error. That's fine. Let's what we'll do is now let's generate the HTML using Lightning Carousel. Now let me. Oh, sorry. Let me clear this. Now I open. I have this context. Now let me copy it here. Let me use enter file. Let me say now generate the HTML using Lightning Carousel, and I'm asking you to generate a HTML using Lightning Carousel and Lightning Carousel image based components. So I want to use these base components. So I want to be as descriptive as possible. For the product carousel JavaScript file, let us say product carousel JavaScript file. Let us see what it has to do. Yeah, it generates some HTML file wherein you can see that it uses the Lightning Carousel and Lightning Carousel image. Let's go and open the HTML file and let us take this from here. And you can fine tune it. So I have Lightning Carousel, and in that I'm getting products.data, and you can see that it has the products. So it is going to get the products.data. And what I also want to show is I also want to show auto completion here. So what I'll do is I remove a bit of code from here. So I'll remove everything in between for each. And you can see that it is generating, because I've asked it for Lightning Carousel and Carousel image, you can see that it is generating the code for the Lightning Carousel image. So I can, like I said, I can accept the code by using the word-wise, okay? Or I can completely accept the code by clicking the tab button. Okay, and then again, if you want to invoke the auto completion, you can also do that using the shortcut key. If you are using Windows, you can use alt forward slash, or you can use, if you are using Mac, opt forward slash can generate a additional context. If you want to give item name, maybe you want to implement a handle click, you can also do that. Maybe I don't want to do that now, I want to do it a little later. So I'm just doing this, and it has generated something called as picture underscore URL underscore C, because carousel is used to use pictures within that. But I remember that picture underscore URL underscore C was not the actual property. So what I'll do is, or maybe that is the actual property. Yeah. So I just removed it. Sometimes it might generate a generic word. In that case, you can remove that, and then you can generate whatever you want. So let me remove this extra code. Okay, I can also add the description, whatever. Maybe I can add the description here. I'll keep it simple for now. Let us save it, and then before deploying, I also need to create a meta file. Let's check the meta file. Let's change the is exposed to true. And let us add the target because I want to use it in the app page. I can select targets here, and then I can go and then press tab and again type target and select target here. And I can select any of these options. I know I want to use it in app page, so I'll select the app page. Let us save it. And let us deploy this code. Let's go here and deploy this code. Looks like there is an error. Let me see what that error is. It says in product carousel.js at Salesforce slash Apex modules only support default imports. Now I know where is the mistake. So here I need to make it as a default input. So I'll remove these braces. Let us save it once again. And let's deploy this code. Okay, there is some other error. Uh, Invalid HTML syntax. There is some syntax issue. Maybe I have lightning carousel image, but I don't see the closing tag. So let me again take the support. So I just press space. Now when I press tab, it's going to accept this. Let us save it. Let us deploy this code now and see if it works. No, it still fails. So for item directory is expected to be a string. Okay, there is one more issue here. So I'm saying for each products.data, and here I'm saying for item equal to, I need to give a string there. Let us call it as product, or you can even call it as item. It's up to us. And let us save it because we are using item here. I just put item, but if you want to say product, you can do that and make the changes here. Let us again deploy this. I know this is live coding, and we forget this is why we have Agentforce for developers, right? So yeah, now it has successfully deployed. Let's go back to the org and let's refresh this page. And I have created a app page already. Let's add that component in this app page and see if it works. I've clicked latest bikes and let's say edit page. And here you have product carousel. Let me drag and drop it here. Okay, there is some general error. That's fine. So I just dragged and dropped it here. Let us save it. And then if you go back, you can see that the carousel is available now and it is working. Maybe you want to apply some CSS. You can also ask Agentforce to generate the CSS for you. So can you generate a CSS to make the size of, or to make a generate a CSS to create, to make a medium size carousel. Let us say. Now you can see that it has created a nice CSS file for us. You can always use this CSS file. You can use the whole CSS file, or maybe you want to use a little bit of it. You can do that. So you can copy this, adjust the width as needed, adjust the height as needed, and you can create a CSS file and then just copy paste it and it should work. So yeah, I leave it as an exercise. It's a very simple thing. You can go here and just create a same product carousel.css .css. You can go here and then paste it from your, let me paste it from here. So I'm saying width is 600, maybe height also can give height colon, and say it suggests 300 pixels, which is good. I can save it. And it says start lighting carousel. Let's also confirm in HTML if that class is used somewhere. If the class is not used, maybe you can say class equal to, I'll use this class here, and let us save it and let's deploy it once again. It is successfully deployed. Now let me refresh this page. Maybe I haven't, or I can probably do it in a div. Again, it's up to you. I'm just, or maybe I can put it here. Sorry. Okay, I have put it here, and let us save it and deploy the source code. Yeah, my intention here is to show that you can apply, you can generate whatever you want. Now you can see that it has applied that size, and you can see the carousel working. Now you can also add the functionality to, like for instance, you can create a on-click handler by using the dev assistant, and then fine tune that code to use the navigation mixin. For instance, if you want to navigate to the respective product page, maybe you want to show the product description, all you can always do all of that stuff. And now that you understand the basics of Agentforce for developers, I'm sure you can work a lot on it. Like I said, it is free for developers to use, and if you have any questions at any point in time, you can always go and uh, go to the guide or the URL, wherever, maybe here it is. You can go here and you can share your feedback on the issues, and those issues might be fixed soon. With that said, let us quickly, before I take few questions, let us quickly do a quick recap of what we have learned today. So we have learned about the capabilities of Agentforce for developers, and how you can use it to optimistically write the code. We talked about Dev Assistant, and Dev Assistant can be your go-to helper for any Salesforce development related tasks. Maybe you want to generate the code, you want to create the test classes, you want to generate the documentation, or you want to have a explanation of the existing code. Dev Assistant will be very handy for you to use. And then command palette is one of the places where you can run all of the commands. So I use Dev Assistant most of the time today. But again, if you wish, you can also find the equivalent commands in the command palette, from where you can generate the classes, generate the code, or generate the test classes. Then we also looked into inline code completions, and you get those inline code completions using the CodeGen uh, LLM, that is the in-house Salesforce LLM, and it generates the inline completions, and it follows the best practices. Again, while you write the ask for the code generation, also you can ask it to generate by following the best practices. It does so. For instance, if you want to add the exception handling, you can ask Dev Assistant to generate the code with exception handling. It does that. And in inline code completion, if you don't like it, you can always go back and try again, try a different query. Maybe that query generates the right code for you. And last but not the least, one of the pain points, as we all know, generating the Apex test classes, which can help you with the code coverage, and also the stability of your code. Whatever code you write, it's going to be more efficient. With that, I'd like to see if there are any questions. I'll answer those questions, but then I'll also leave this slide, wherein you can connect with us on the community. You can find us as salesforce.com/dev community, and then you can find a lot of awesome videos on our YouTube channel, and you can also find us on X and Facebook. So these are the different handles which you can use to connect with us. Okay, there is one question from Shankar, I don't know if it is already answered, but it says, does this understand my whole code base of my org to get the context? So whatever is there, yeah, it understand your code base. Once you create a SFDX project and check out the code, whatever is there in your development environment, it has that context. So it can refer to that code base. And then it's also one of the best practices to refresh the S objects so that it also has the context to the objects that are available in your org. So while you are writing the code, it's going to consider your code base, and it's also going to consider the objects that are there in your org when you do the refresh objects. And I want to use this extension for Agentforce and add my own help text and wrap it up and as my own VS Code extension. Would that work? Is there any such possibility? This is a little typical question. If I want to use the extension for Agentforce and add my own help text and wrap it up as my own VS Code extension, yeah. While you are asking, maybe you can give the context. Maybe you can have that in your files and add more context to it, because internally, Agentforce for developers also use the RAG. So you can give more context, but again, build your own extension. I'm not very sure how it works. With that, we are almost on time. If you have more questions, you can always post the questions on or post the questions in a direct message to me. I'll try to answer as many questions possible. And if there are some issues, like I said, you can also post the issues in the GitHub repository. With that, thank you everyone who joined the session today, and I hope you enjoyed the session. And see you again in at another session in the new year in 2025. Happy Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone who joined this session today. Thank you so much, and see you again.